Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Asya for those who don't know me yet. And I wanted to welcome you to my channel and say thanks for being here. I'm really excited to talk to you today about the digital nomad lifestyle, what it is, the different visas that are out there, if it's something that's for you, and how you can potentially take advantage of it. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you're notified whenever I post new videos. And don't forget to hit the like button if you're excited, as it helps to get this video in front of more people who would find this information helpful. So without further ado, let's get into this. The good thing is, since the pandemic has started, companies had no choice but to figure out how they can allow their employees to stay productive, do the same job, but now work from home. Whereas in the past, a lot of companies were stuck in that micromanagerial mentality where, a position could easily be done from home, but they didn't want to because they can't micromanage somebody when they're at home. Even now in 2021, most companies are still not asking for their employees to come back in the office. And if they are, they're giving their employees the option if they still want to continue working from home. Moving forward, things are not going to go back to the way they were when it comes to the working environment. Companies have realized that their employees can be just as productive, if not more productive, by working from home, and the company saves so much in overhead costs. In my personal opinion, I think this is fantastic. And I've been in the corporate world for a while, since before the pandemic started, and I've been working from home, and so this is nothing new to me. What is a digital nomad? Well, a digital nomad is someone who can do their job, whether they're working for someone else or they're a freelancer, an entrepreneur. As long as they can do their job, they have good internet connection, they can do their job anywhere in the world. They're not tied down to one specific location. And back in the day, before 2020, people who were digital nomads, they were really mostly, for the most part, they were freelancers or online entrepreneurs. Before 2020, being a digital nomad and traveling, working remotely from tropical destinations was not the norm. Somebody who was doing that was really just pushing the envelope, going outside the barriers of what traditional work was about. And, people looked at them as like risk takers. I believe that in the next 5 years, the digital nomad lifestyle will become the norm. So what exactly is a digital nomad visa? It's a visa given by countries to foreigners who are either freelancers, entrepreneurs, or they work remotely for a company in their home country. That allows them to stay longer in that country than a typical tourist visa. And these visas allow the foreigner to continue to work. They can come and go as they please in and out of the country. These visas range from 6 months to 2 years, depending on the country. And most of these actually also allow you to bring your spouse or your kids, even pets with you. Some of these visas are also renewable. The difference is really between this visa and just a regular tourist visa is A, you can stay longer, and B, you can technically work in their country, but you're working for a foreign company in your home country. And there are so many benefits to these digital nomad visas. First of all, it makes travel so much easier. All these travel restrictions you have to do, it's almost not even worth it, either when you enter a specific country or when you're coming back home to your country. It's almost not worth traveling, but now these digital nomad visas make it a lot more worthwhile. Even if you choose to go to a country that has a visa, but they have a 2-week quarantine, it doesn't really matter to you because you have a year in that country. So spending 2 weeks in quarantine when you get there might not be a big of a deal for you if you really want to go to that country. And by earning money in your home country and spending it in whatever country you're going to, now you're going to help boost their economy as well, right? Because all these countries have lost so much money from the drop in tourism. And for the most part, you're going to save more money by living abroad than in your own country. Because, for example, a lot of these countries have a lower cost of living than, let's say, in Canada or in the United States, for example, or even in Europe. And the biggest benefit, in my opinion, is the change of scenery. The change of scenery from your apartment or condo or house to somewhere in another island, in another country. It will help your mental health. It'll help boost your productivity and inject more life into you. Because now when you're not working on the weekends or after work, you can go out and enjoy the beautiful country that you're in, and you have so much time to actually enjoy it. There was 3 really main countries that came out with this visa initially, and they were really the pioneers in this because they realized, you know, tourism has gone down, but everybody is working from home. Why not allow them, since they're remote, come into our country and do the job here? You know, and let them make money in their country and come spend it here to help boost our economy. That is brilliant. Well, it started with 3 countries, and now there are about 20 countries with 1 honorable mention. I will list the countries, but I'm not going to go into depth about each of them because I've written an extremely detailed guide that's called The Ultimate Guide to Digital Nomad Visas. In the description, I've included the link, so be sure to go check it out. I talk about how to apply, what are the requirements. I share all the links that you need to know, links to travel requirements to enter each country. So it's very, very detailed if you want to know more. Before we dive into the countries, I want to talk about some important things that you need to consider before you either A, decide if this is something for you, or B, which country you want to go to. So first things first is safety. And I'm talking about both physical safety and digital safety. When it comes to like cybersecurity and our digital online footprint and privacy, those are really, really important things, because last thing you want is you're doing some sensitive work for your company and you get hacked, or something happens, the information gets leaked and you were the source. That is the last thing you want. So you need to really take your cybersecurity and digital security seriously. First thing I would say is, if you're working out in public, in cafes or co-working spaces, make sure you're sitting in a way that people can't just stare and take pictures of your computer screen or watch what you're doing. And the second thing is, I would also consider using a virtual private network or VPN. This is something very important. There's a lot of great ones out there. I can really talk about the digital security, cybersecurity in quite a lot of detail, but there's so much to go over here. So I would just focus on those 2 things for now. Physical security or physical safety. So you want to think about travel insurance. This is really important. I mean, you're gone for a year or more. You know, you don't want anything to happen to your family. Somebody gets sick, or they get food poisoning, or they have an accident, right? You guys are hiking. Make sure you guys are covered and have a good health insurance policy or travel insurance policy in place that will cover you. And there's some great companies out there. And one other thing I will touch on safety is the safety of the actual country you're going to. You want to look at like crime rate, research the different areas. You don't want to pick and rent a place in an area where it's not safe at all and you're bringing your kids there, but you know, you didn't do the research before going there. Go into Facebook groups, ask people who've been there. Other things you want to look at, I mentioned earlier, is the travel requirements to enter the country. You also want to think about the internet speed. Because if you're working remotely, you need to make sure that your internet speed can hold the bandwidth, especially if you're traveling with your kids who might be watching Netflix while you're working. So you want to make sure the bandwidth can support that. Some Caribbean islands, because they're smaller, less population, it's hard to get the fiber to the island. So you're actually paying crazy amounts of money for what we would consider in North America as low speeds. So for example, you could be paying like $250 for 25 megs. And I've actually seen up to $500 US for like 75 megs or 100 megs or something like that. Definitely do your research, because if the internet is not included in the place you're staying at and you have to pay for that separately, you're gonna have to figure out, is it something that you want to pay for? Well, that would also play a factor into which country you go to, because maybe you don't want to go to a country where you're paying $500 US a month for 75 megs. If you're going somewhere for a year or more, reach out to a realtor, because they'll find you great rates and great places. We've looked at rentals in different places, and when we reach out to the realtor in that country, the places they show us are unbelievable. And with the realtor, you can ask them questions about the local area, maybe compare different areas. And you can also ask them about internet speeds in the place that you're renting. If you have kids, you want to research different schools and activities that they can be a part of, because a lot of these countries also, if you're coming with kids, they allow your kids to attend school locally. So you would want to research schools and figure out if that's something that would be good for your kids. Also, will you require daycare services? Do you want to hire a nanny? Do you want a maid service or someone to come and cook meals? This is something as well that you can consider because it might be cheaper in other countries. What is the cost of living where you're going? What language do they speak there? Is that a language that you know already, or is it a language that you want to learn? What currency do they use, and what's the exchange rate? Is there a time difference where you're going? This is another big one. For example, if in your country you're working Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., but now let's say you're in the US and now you're going to Europe, right? So now your time is going to change, because if you have to work for your company between Eastern time or Pacific time, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and then where you're going, they're like 8 hours or 9 hours ahead. So now that's going to change your working hours, right? So are you okay with that? Are you okay to work in the evenings or overnight? And the other thing you need to think about is, what do you want to do with your belongings? You're leaving for a year or two. Are you going to sell your house? Are you going to put stuff into storage and then maybe rent out your place to somebody long term for a year or two? Let's say you don't rent out your place and you leave it the way it is, you might be paying in double expenses. So some people, they choose to keep their place, not sell it, and then they could put all this stuff in storage and then rent it out, or rent it out partially furnished, right? So these are the things you want to consider and think about. Now, the big question, the exciting question, the countries that have the digital nomad visas. So we'll go alphabetically. Anguilla, Antigua, Barbuda, Aruba, Australia, Bahamas, Barbados, Bermuda, Cayman Islands, Costa Rica, Croatia, Curacao, Dominica, Dubai, Estonia, Georgia, Iceland, Mauritius, Mexico, Montserrat, and Portugal. And like I said, there's one honorable mention, and that is Greece. Now, I didn't really cover Greece because this is something that's kind of new. Greece has been working on a digital nomad visa. That's probably going to be one of the more exciting digital nomad visas. So I don't really know too much of the details, but from what I've read so far, the Greek government is thinking about doing a 2-year visa that's going to be renewable. Keep your eyes and ears open about when that'll come, and I'm definitely going to update my blog posts with the information for it. And I linked that blog in the description if you want to check out more details. Now, with each country, there is different requirements that you have to meet in order to get approved for the visa. So some countries have requirements like you have to be making a certain amount of money either per year or per month, and you have to show you can support your family, your dependents, whoever is coming with you. You need to show financial proof that you can support them. I think with bank statements, pay stubs, things like that. On the blog post that I wrote, I included the links of A, everything that they require, and B, where to get that information and how to apply. There's also fees associated with some of the digital nomad visas. Some of the fees are non-refundable. For other countries, you pay the fee only after you get approval. For the most part, it takes such a short amount of time to get the approval. The maximum I've seen is a couple of months for Costa Rica or Australia. But other than that, usually about max probably 2 weeks or up to 5 days to get the approval. And most of these countries will send you your answer if you've been approved or denied via email. And if you've been approved, they'll send your visa in your email as well, and then you present it at customs when you arrive. And there are countries that actually have zero cost to the digital nomad visa. And the costs also range for each country. So some of the countries have a family bundle versus an individual. I hope you enjoyed this video and you got a lot of helpful information. If you have any questions at all, please leave them in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them as well. And before I sign off, I want to leave you with one thought. It may be scary to change up everything and do something different that maybe you've never done before, maybe you've only dreamed about, or maybe you never even dreamed about it because you never thought it was a possibility, but now you're uprooting everything, you're taking your family, you're going to a foreign country, you have no idea what to expect. And yes, it can be scary for sure, and there's a lot of that fear and doubt that will start to set in, but you can't live on fear because fear stands for false evidence appearing real. I can talk about this a lot, But sometimes you need to consider how scary it is to never live out your dreams and to stay status quo and to stay stagnant. Because at the end of your life, you're going to get to that point where you're going to say, I wish I did this. I wish I did that. I had this opportunity. I should have taken it. You know, that's not what you want, right? You don't want to be full of regret. I always say, don't just kind of take foolish risks. Take calculated risks. There's a big difference between taking a foolish risk and a calculated risk. But at the end of the day, if you don't take any kind of risks, you're never going to go out of your comfort zone. You're never going to know what you could have had, what you could have experienced. And it's not that grass is greener on the other side. It's about living a fulfilled life. At the end of the day, if you plan things properly and do things the right way, there will be far less fear and anxiety and uncertainty because you've planned for what you could plan. But at the end of the day, things can happen in your own country, things can happen in a foreign country, you know, that's just life. But if you are smart, you're taking calculated risks, you plan things out as much as you can. Sometimes you got to go by faith. I promise you, at the end of the day, it'll be worth it, because that's something that I'm speaking of from experience. You know, there's always fear, there's always risk, but at the end of the day, what's more important to you?